It's kind of a shortcut to put up this machine in your VMware. Let me show you what I will do. I will just close this. I will remove this machine from my system, from this VM. Okay, it's completely removed, right? You can see this. What I will do, simply double click on this file. Double click it. Can you see? It opened the VM for me, right? Now, what you need to do, power on this virtual machine. Power on this virtual machine. As soon as I click on that, you can see it's done, right? Uh, One more thing actually. Let me show you that again. Just give me a let it load. Okay, not giving it right now. Let me show you that thing again. Actually, it will be giving you a pop-up which says I copied it, something like that. Okay, it gives that pop-up to you. So, for example, delete it. Yeah, so double click it, power on. It will be giving you this pop-up. Okay, focus on this one. A pop-up like this. In this pop-up, what you need to do is, in this pop-up, guys, you need to click on I copied it. Okay, click on I copied it, and that's it. Okay, so make sure of this thing. Perfect. Guys, go for the 7-zip. I would suggest that because that window and everything. I recently, if you have heard about it, that it was vulnerable. Attacker were able to exploit and take advantage of the vulnerabilities out of it. So it was not secure. That's why I would also suggest you guys to better to switch to 7-zip right now. Okay, and like uninstall it from your system. 7-zip is pretty much good. I would suggest you go over 7-zip. It's pretty good. You have to do the same for Parrot also. Okay, so similarly for Parrot also, there'll be a file with the same like if you go on to see the extension, it will be like this. Okay, it will be your VMX file. Okay, VMX file will be there, and same will be for your Parrot also. Like this. See this file, right? It will be of 2.89 KB. The same your VMX file. Okay, so you have to do the same. So always remember this logo: three white papers overlapping each other. So same thing you have to do for your Parrot as well. It will be up in your VMs. Awesome. All right, so that you can also get started with these practicals and all that part bit. So we have met on the first day as well. Okay, this is Sayem Negi, and I'll be a speaker for the introduction to Red Team and Python, introduction to Red Team and pen testing, and your further after this another will be there. Your security booster will be also seeing you over there. Okay, and yeah, as I mentioned, I'll be speaker for a couple of days. Right, your security booster and introduction to red teaming and pen testing will be covering that part, and I'll be a speaker for that entire time. Right, and as I said before, on the very first day, I have covered some grounds in this particular field. I would like to repeat because it's quite important that I haven't started my career in as a cybersecurity part. It was never that. Like earlier back in the days, I started my career as a web developer. Okay, so it's many roles, struggle points. Everyone face that. Correct. So web development have been there, business management is sort of. So prime focus was web development, but uh, you know, never found it quite much interesting. Always having a interest in networking or cybersecurity part, you can say. Like you might have heard about that game, Counter Strike. So you might be also aware of that when you are playing with the teams, like for example, if you have two opponents, two teams, four aside or five aside, what do? You connect with the router, right? And then you play a game, isn't it? So that you all can be on a same connection, right? So like I just wanted to say this was the start where I got this interest and all that part. So we used to configure the router, you can say, checking out the settings, playing around with the IPs, giving and setting up the IP manually, connecting with the searcher, correct? So it's all started from that, right? So obviously, having an interest in game as well, and like networking was always attached to it. So it gradually increased, and like, okay, after BTech, you can say like, many got to say that okay, go for the web development and all that part. Sort of tried it, never liked it, to be very honest. For my like, never like, not saying for everyone, anyone, like it was for my personal interest I'm talking about, right? So I always have this, kind of this cybersecurity part intrigued me, so I just switched to this, and and it has been quite a couple of years. I'm into this part of cybersecurity and giving, deliveries and having a lot of sessions and all that part on a regular basis. So it's quite interesting for me. So why I'm telling you this is the reasons that it's not like that you cannot switch the profile. Like, I see that many people are having this question that can we switch the profile? Will it be very tough, or like is it impossible, or kind of a thing? So I won't say it's impossible. Tough, yes, right? Tough, it might be there, but it's not impossible. Better of a dedication, I would say, and a hard work will for sure, it will take you over here. Like you can uh, easily lead over in this particular field. So this field welcomes everyone, right? Because everyone is connected with the network, everyone is experiencing network everywhere. So it's just that matter of time that you can just devote your time to this, and it will be, the more you give to this particular field, the more you get in return. I can assure you for that, right? So it's pretty much interesting field, right? And you might have, experience also this, that nowadays in like, after someone ate a bat, since then a lot of attacks are being happened. Those who are regular on the basis of, connecting with the articles, reading the articles, reading the news in cybersecurity, you might be aware of that. Since this pandemic, a lot of attacks are being happened daily, on a daily basis, you can say. So I was just reading this article which says during this 2020, and you can say half of 2021, the amount of attacks which have happened, they haven't has been like, in past 15 years. That much attack happened in these, you can say, in that single pandemic entire year which we have been through. Because, many changes were there. Everyone is working from home. You can say, security was leased out, giving more permissions and privileges. So somehow attacker were able to, take an advantage of that. There you go. So it's pretty good one, you know, on a day-to-day basis. I would say uh, you can get a lot of articles related to these things. At times they also share some like, uh, interesting like to learn Linux or any new tools, and all those things are also updated over here. So it's pretty interesting. See, simple 5-step framework to minimize the risk of a data breach, right? Hacking Paris 10th edition. Okay, that's regarding the book. Expert expose secrets and continue survey group and all that part. So it's pretty good. You can always rely on this one. Online courses, they also do that. Okay, perfect. So I was just saying regarding the introduction, right? So it's not that it is tough to go into this field. It's pretty much good. You can, if you have this that dedication, if you're willing to take that much of a, you can say, efforts, then for sure you can go for that, right? And that's it, right, from my end. And we'll be discussing about the red teaming and pen testing, and moreover what we will be doing in this entire sessions of these red teaming and pen testing, we'll be seeing the, approaches. We'll be talking about or solving the VMs on the machines in this entire time. Okay, so I won't bore you guys with theory much, and rather than theory, we'll be going with the practical part. Meanwhile, you guys can, download that VMs and download these machines which I have shared to you. Okay, perfect. So we're gonna talk about introduction to red teaming and pen testing. So okay, starting with this. Okay, everybody I guess knows first of all this thing that we have two teams, right? Generally, like if we talk about one is a red team, another is a blue team. See over here we have two teams as I was mentioning, red team, blue team. Red team is for what? It is for, so in short, combining all the things, you can say red team is the offensive team, the ones they those who do the attacking part, right? And the blue team will be the one which will be on a defending side, right? They'll be a defensive. Those will be defending, like fixing up the security patches, firewalls, IDS, IPS, upgrading the softwares, fixing out those vulnerabilities and all that part. Correct. So red team, what they do, they rigorously challenge the plans. Okay. Vulnerabilities, yes, obviously finding the vulnerability is one of them. They'll be challenging the plans, your policies, your systems, and by different approaches, we can say. It's kind of we have this word adversarial. So adversarial approaches will be there. Okay. So see, red teaming can be done both. Like either an organization, they can have their internal team, okay, or else they can have the third party, like external ones, which they can hire for them and they will be paying them, and for you can say kind of a freelancing or external third party which will be doing the red teaming. They'll be attacking and they'll be finding what are the ways or how an attacker can inside your system, your network or cloud or anywhere for that matter, right? So your goal, you can say the goal or ultimatum of your red teaming is to do what? To you can say uh, like to attack on the organization somehow, like challenging the people over there, challenging their incident response team basically. Okay, they'll be seeing the ability of an organization, how they'll be handling the situation, what will be their critical thinking scenario, how prepared they are, how good they are in decision making. All of these things will be the goal of your red teaming. They'll be challenging these things, right? So red team would have what? They will be having the simulated actions in which they'll be you know the planning will be there. They'll be having their own tactics, their techniques and their procedures, right, to do an attack. So it can be malicious as they want to go, right? Or any adversarial, you can say another term for that, right? So their goal is to what? Their goal is to breach, or you can say the compromising a company's security or digital security, right? And on the other hand, we have this blue team, right? Which is again the your own IT team, cybersecurity team, which will be, you know, blocking that part, or you can say uh, doing the you know reacting to those attacks done by a red team. Correct. So red team over here of the organization or any third party, they'll be doing what? They'll be uh, posing, or you can say as a like a group of attackers, you can say, or cyber criminals, you can say. Correct. So they'll be behaving like that. So you can say you can take that perspective that any malicious hacker or malicious attacker, they are attacking your organization. So they'll be posing that group, you can say, right? And blue team will be doing what? They'll be countering them. You can say they'll be the one, those are stopping them, so that they cannot do any kind of a data breach sort of thing, right? Hypothetically, you just think about that way, that red team, they'll be posing as a, you can say, attackers, malicious attackers, those who are trying to destroy the company and those who are trying to do the data breach inside it. Whereas if you talk about your blue team job will be to do what? Blue team job will be to you know face those challenges and try to stop the attackers from doing the data breach, right? So these kind of interaction, there is a word for that, that is known as your red team, blue team simulation. Okay, red team, blue team simulation. All right. The same thing that covers your another part, which is your that why do we need red team, right? So as I told you, this is the practice where we are rigorously doing the attacks, challenging the entire plans, policies, and systems, and all those assumptions which are taken by the organization, and see how the company will be reacting. So to check the critical thinking, how the company will react, we need red team for that, isn't it? We need red team to that, or red team for these reasons, right? So they will be making their all those stealthy moves, you can say, their procedure, right? And they'll be trying to destroy the systems and the protocols which are in place. But not only that, but also to the people, those who are managing them, right? So they are pretty much focused, goal oriented, right? And they have their own specific objectives which they have to achieve, right? So they will be trying to access your sensitive server, your business critical applications, and all that part. Correct? Perfect. So we need red team for that. Then we have your pen testing, right? We have. Okay. So pen tester, can we say like kind of a manually security testing? This is kind of a method where organization they give an overview of the you know of the security controls which are in place to the pen tester, and then he do start his pen testing, right? He'll be testing the vulnerabilities on the networks, any systems, assets, hardwares, your applications which are there, or whatsoever is there in a defined scope. He'll be looking out for those things. He'll be checking out for the vulnerabilities inside them, right? Correct. So you might have heard about, there's a term known as a vulnerability assessment. So whenever you're determining, you can say in short, whenever you're trying to determine the vulnerabilities in your network, in your server, in your application, whatsoever it is, when you're trying to determine the vulnerabilities, the weaknesses or the flaws over there, that will be known as a vulnerability assessment. Correct? So when you do the vulnerability assessment on all that part, you might have seen there is like something like CVE, CVSS. See guys, whenever you do the vulnerability assessment, no, whenever you're trying to determine what all vulnerabilities are present out there in that particular system or network, whatsoever you're doing the vulnerability assessment to, right? So whatever it is. So when you do vulnerability assessment, when you try to determine what all vulnerabilities are present over there, so what happens, they'll be listing out a CV over there. So CV looks like something like this. CV 2013. This is just an example, okay? Just a minute. 2013 and something like 745613. Okay, it does looks like this. So what are these? These are the vulnerabilities of which are already exposed out, which are already publicly available. Okay, even if you write a CV on Google, you will find out there are a lot of databases which will be presented over there, right? So now what they do, this is your CV, okay, and this is your CV ID. Just a minute, yeah, CV and CV ID. So like you can say this is the year in which it was identified, and this will be the ID of it. It will be uniquely helping you to identify that CV. So these will be your CV IDs in total. So it will be like whenever you Google it out for any particular CV. So when I like, let's suppose there is a tool, Nessus is a tool, for example. If I run that Nessus on my machines, and if Nessus is able to identify any vulnerability over there, So it will be listing out that vulnerability like this, CV, like similarly 14 or whatsoever the number is, right? Now, in respect to that, what you can do is you can Google out that CV, and that CV, when you basically help, what is the help of that is it will be helping you to determine, okay, what vulnerability it is, first of all, how dangerous it can be, what all advantages can be taken out by this vulnerability from, well, from an attacker's perspective I'm talking about, like, all these details can be taken out. So the solution will also be there. So this way you'll get to know, okay, this CV is this like, this is of this priority, this can do this much damage, this is this of having, this is a high vulnerability on all those things. Make sense? So that you can make your systems more secure. Then we have CVSS, common vulnerability scoring system. Okay. So actually, when we do that, you can say this vulnerability assessment, what it tends to give, it tends to give you CV and a CVSS score also, guys. It tends to give you CV and a CVSS score. So basically for CVSS, you know, there is a table for CVSS, you can say. There is a table. Uh, that table is like, it defines the rating on the basis of the severity. Like, I mean, like, there is a range. If that CVSS score lies on that range, it will tell you that how severe that vulnerability is. Okay. So let me write the table for you. Okay, I'm just removing the full form. Perfect. So for CVSS, the table looks like this. You can say severity, CVE. Okay, CV means it's a common vulnerability and exposure. So what it does, like whenever you do the vulnerability assessment, whenever you're using a tool, you're trying to find out what all vulnerabilities are present in that application or in that network. Okay, so when you're trying to do that, what will happen? It will be listing out if in that application if these vulnerabilities are present. Okay, so it will show that vulnerability in this format, like CV 2013 745613, like this. Okay, so with the help of this, what can happen? First of all, these are these are the vulnerabilities which are already public. These are the vulnerabilities which are already public, and there's the entire database which is having it, the details of these vulnerabilities. So now when I did the vulnerability assessment, if I got something like which says CV 2013 745613, what I can do, I like, it will be giving some details as well, that tool. But what I can do, I can just go out to Google. I can search out for that vulnerability specifically, and what I can get lots of information regarding that vulnerability, right? Like how much damage it can do, how severe it can be. That severity can be get where CVSS, and how it can be exploited, what effect did in the organization, how it will do the damage, how much impact will it do, all those information, and how can we fix it up. So these information can be, can you can get out of this CV. So that's why CV is pretty much important, which goes by the name common vulnerability and exposure. Awesome. So then we have CVSS. We were talking about CVSS. So CVSS have these ranges, you can say. None. None means whenever you find a CV like this, okay, for example, you found a CV, if you're getting any range written over there right next to it, or any line somewhere, if the if it's written 0.0 point 0, it means it is of none of a severity. It's not damageable, like, nothing severe is there. It's pretty much normal. That's fine. But if the range is from 0.1 to 3.9, it will be of low severity. Okay, it will be of low severity. Then if it's your 4.0 to 6.9, it will be your medium. Okay, if it's from 7.0 to 8.9, right? 7.0 to 8.9, it will be considered as of high severity. And if it's 9.0 to 10.0, this will be considered as, right? So if you do the vulnerability assessment, right? If you do the vulnerability assessment, in that vulnerability assessment, you got, okay, like this, a CV, got a CV like this. And you also get something written like 9.6. So with this, it will be indicating that the severity level of that vulnerability is critical, right? It means it should be of high priority or low priority. High priority, right? Because obviously if you're getting 9.6, it means it is gonna do a lot of damage. It is very severe, right? It can do high damage. So according to, you can do the risk assessment as well. Like, you can, like, that's why you might see whenever you talk about, cyber security, there's always a topic involved that goes by the name risk management. People often tend to ask me why risk is there when you're talking about cyber security, but it is always relatable. Okay, it is always relatable. Then you can see, you'll be analyzing that, you'll be assessing that risk, that how much damage this can do to us, right, if it's not properly handled, isn't it? And now there'll be priority setup, like, okay, solve this thing on a high priority, involve these many teams, like, like two people on this particular, two people on this. You will be handling out your, or you can say you will be distributing your team according to the, you know severity of those things which you are finding out, or according to the priorities. Make sense? Got an idea of the entire thing? Perfect. So coming back to the topic, this is what regarding a vulnerability assessment, but you have also heard like VAPT, right? So people generally tend to leave this part, right? So pen testing, what happens, all these vulnerabilities which we have find out now, we take that advantage of that vulnerabilities, and then what we do, we take advantage of that. We try to, see how much we can get inside, what all things can we do from that vulnerability. And then we'll be creating a report, like, what we do, we create some, we take some screenshots that, I use these tools and this happened and all that part, and then we create a report. And then we suggest also that, okay, these things were lacking and this is the way how it can be fixed up. Okay, so these days they're, you can say, they're not stealthy, they're pretty much focused, right? And you know this is to see what all vulnerabilities were there. So pretty much, predefined, and everything will be there, like as per the scope, as per the planning, right? So next thing is, then what is the difference between the red teaming and the blue team? What do you think? May identify the new ones, or you can say the new vulnerabilities which they can take an advantage of, right? As I told you before also, that red team, they focus on what, they focus on your incident response procedures, correct? Like how the people will be responding to that kind of an attack, isn't it? Right? How those security controls are strong, how they'll be, taking place, what all weaknesses are there. It's a combined thing for that. Generally, people tend to, you can say, uh, mix up the words. You can say mix up the words, as in, I would, like, the interchangeable words: penetration testing and red teaming. Like, both things are the same. People tend to use that. So that's pretty much fine. But in reality, one basic thing I would say, like for your pen tester, you can say they are like a pirates. I was just reading this article before, pen tester, you can say they are like a pirates. Okay, they just have to barge in, everyone knows about it, and they are just there to barge in. Whereas, you can say, the red team will be the ones, you can say, the ninjas, like stealthy mode. Okay, you can consider them like a pirate, like just they barge in, they know something is there, like they have to take an advantage of that. But red team, they are like a ninjas. They go in a stealth mode, so that nobody will notice. What I want to say is, whenever there is a pen testing, no, everyone knows about it, right? Whenever there is a pen testing, everyone knows about it, isn't it? Correct? Like your blue team will be aware of that, your entire organization will be aware of that, you know that pen testing is going on, that we have appointed someone for doing the pen testing. Everyone knows about it. But red team, nobody knows about that. So in, how your malicious attackers will be there, how they'll be responding, or how attackers will be performing, that will be just getting pretty much accurate over here in a red team. So nobody, not even a blue team, no one knows about it, that there's gonna be an attack. So it's just real time experience, you can say. In pen testing, everything is fixed. You do the planning. We'll discuss about that. Planning, scoping, what all tools will be used. Every single bit is predefined. But here, no, no, no limit like a tools. What else you can use, scoping. They're their own scope. You can say they have defined like whatever their agenda is, whatever they have to achieve. That strategy will be discussed. But there is nothing like a planning, scoping, or tools like which is discussed with the organization or with the blue team at what time attack will happen. Nothing. In pen testing, what we do, we tend to do at what time of the day do we need to do the pen testing, so that we may not hamper the uh, servers or a business workflow. But in red team, no, nothing like that. It is just like a real time, as I mentioned before. So they are there to see what will happen, how good our team is, how good they are able to handle that incident if something like this occurs in a real time, and unexpected attacks happens like that. So blue team, they perform their own job in the this scenario, fixing up the issues, or you can say they will perform their own job, like gathering the IOC's indicator of compromise, and they'll be trying to stop the attack. So that part will be here in your red team, that how they'll be responding. So red team, they are pretty much focused, goal oriented, and they perform these security testing methods, which are there designed to achieve some specific objectives which they have, right? So they'll be trying to access your sensitive server, your critical business applications, right? So their success will be measured how well they have accomplished their objective. Red team success is measured in that way. Blue team success, they are measured how well they were in order to protect it, or how they were in determining the attack, or how they were stopping it, and how quickly they were responding. That part. Okay. So whenever organizations, you can say, not prepared to prevent such attack, red team is looking out for these things. So that they can make sure that you know what all weaknesses are there, how to improve them. Then you can say these things, whatever the things are lacking there, they'll be get notice, creating a report, you can say, and working on that, so that they can respond to an actual attack whenever it happens. So this will be, you can say, pen testing versus the red teaming. So pen testing, uh, time, as you mentioned, it's pretty much brief in pen testing. Red teaming, it's very extended, like longer time period is there, right? So that will be basic difference between your pen testers and the red teaming. So employees, they were aware of, in pen testing, they are aware of this entire thing which is taking place. In red teaming, employees, they are not aware of that these attacks are being performed into the company, right? So pen testers, they seek to exploit the known vulnerabilities, over here in the red teaming part, they discover the new vulnerabilities. You can say they seek to discover the new vulnerabilities, right? Okay. So in pen testing, targets they are predefined as per your planning and scoping. And red teaming, that's not fixed. Okay, they can go for multiple domains. Okay. Okay. So few more into pen testing. We are discussing for about regarding red teaming. Pen testing. Why is pen testing required? Or penetration testing is required. So it is essential because it defines a simulation environment. It helps to find weak areas. It's supposed to avoid black hat attack. It estimates the magnitude of the attack. It provides the evidence to suggest, right? Pretty much basic ones. So with the help of a pen testing, you can say we'll be getting a lot of information out there that which attacker might take an advantage of as well, right? So it will be evaluating all your computers, systems, applications, or vulnerabilities, or any susceptibility to threats which your hackers or cyber attackers will take, right? So you do the vulnerability assessment. You you know you will be evaluating the entire computer network application. You'll be identifying the potential weaknesses over there. Then you perform the pen testing, and on those weaknesses, the identified potential vulnerabilities which you have found out, you try to exploit them and gain the unauthorized access to key systems and the data, and finally reach out to the production of those evidence, and you create a report out of it so that you can uh, tell what all the weaknesses were there and how to fix it up. So that's why we need pen testing, and kind of a detailed testing will be there, into details, because pen testing also do have different types. You might have also read it before: black hat, uh, sorry, black box testing, gray box testing, and white box testing. So next thing is when we'll discuss about this black box, gray box as well. Okay, quite basic ones. Okay, when to perform pen testing, we can say whenever there is an update, right? If you discover any security system discovers new threats by the attackers, then also, like if you get your threat intel, you got to know, okay, new threats are being launched, and you know those things, then you try to perform those penetration testing in respect to that threat in your organization, or in a server, in your network, in an application, whatsoever it is. Whenever you're adding a new network into the infrastructure, you have to do that, correct? Whenever you're updating, which you mentioned before, Manusri mentioned, right? So when you update your system or install any new software, definitely you have to go with your penetration testing. When you're relocating your offices, you can say, things get changed, parameters are changed. uh, pen, uh, Basically pen testing, just to let you know, is not just related to your network, guys. It is also related to your physical part as well. Okay, physical security. So we might discuss social engineering again, a few bit of it, which you might not have heard. If you have heard, we will quickly skipping that part, right? Perfect. So as I was saying, when you relocate your office, your those security measures, they also gets changed, right? uh the connections and every that bit, the setup of a cameras, guards, everything just changes, right? So you can say pen testers are also allowed, or penetration testing should also be done at that time, because we have discussed about social engineering attack, manipulation of human minds. So not just with the human minds, physical attacks are also there, like bypassing the physical barriers, like your cameras. If proper lighting is not there, hidden spots are there, attacker can easily get access to the organization's net building. And then what can happen if, let's suppose, I'm an attacker, and if you're having an organization, so if somehow I'm bypassing your guard, your doors, your CCTV cameras, and if I'm able to get inside your network, internal network, so don't you think that will be like a uh, like a lottery to an attacker? He's inside your internal network, right? And he can easily take an advantage of that. Agree with that? Correct. Various ways are there. I can set up my own Wi-Fi, you can say, or I can inject my pen drive somewhere into someone's system, which is you know kept empty, because you might have seen, uh, you know you are always advised. For example, I'm just giving an advice example in a lesson, that it is always said that do not keep your system on when you are not in your seat. Ever heard? Like whenever you are leaving your seat, always lock your screen. Correct? Yes, lock while you're out of desk. Never, like whenever you're going for a break, lunch break, any break that can be. So always lock your screen, lock your system whenever you're not sitting in your seat. Because anyone can take an advantage. We have insider threat. We have these techniques which I just told you. If any attacker is able to bypass, you can get inside. You might have seen this. We have seen in these movies a lot, right? Hackers, what they do, they try to sneak in into the organization, and they get controlled into the insider network. We have seen that a lot in the movies, isn't it? So that's the reason for that. That's the reason for that. More than that, like for example, if I take an example, let's say there is Harish. Harish is there. He kept his system open. Okay, it's not locked, and he's not in his seat. First of all, I can do whatever I want to. I can install malwares, whatever I want to. Like what we do in practice is we like in our company, in organization, what do we tend to practice is like suppose Harish left his seat, went for a break, his system is not locked. I can change his password. Do you know that? I can change his password easily without knowing his previous password. So this was just to practice and aware the people regarding this thing. So to change a password, I do not need your previous password. I can easily do that without it, without knowing your previous password. So it's that simple. Okay. So many advantages can be taken out. Okay. Malwares can be installed. Attacker can you know take an advantage and he can do whatever he want to do out of it. Right. Like if I show you uh here, like if I say, you can see we have two users, right? One is administrator, one is just another with the name Sayyam. Correct? Administrator, the one which is having most of the privileges. Sayyam is the one, the local uh, user you can see in the system. Correct. So if I just write like this, what does it ask? Retype the password to confirm, and as soon as you do that, it will change the password for me. So anyway, did it ask what is the previous password? Anyway, did it mention that type the previous password? No, right? In a normal way, it tends to ask you what is the previous password, and only then it allows you to go ahead. But here, it didn't ask me what is the previous password, right? As soon as I retype the password which I have just written before and hit enter, the password will change. You can try it on your own system, okay? That's pretty much simple. All right. So yeah, getting back to the point, uh, pen testing can be involved in these times. You set up a new end user program or policy. Yes, we have to use the pen testing at that time to check whether they are properly working or not. And moreover, like whenever you do the updates as mentioned, or launch any software, or do the hardening of your systems. Hardening of a system means making it more and more secure, right, from any kind of an attack. So at that times, like you also do pen testing. So for example, there's a software or any application. Okay, when you launch that application, I will do the pen testing. When I do the pen testing, I found out that there were 10 vulnerabilities. Then what we did, for hardening of that application, we fixed the patches, we updated whatever we did. After, you can say, fixing, I will do pen testing again. Why I will do pen testing again? Because I have to make sure that whatever we did, it reflected on that application. What I meant to say is, like, after fixing it, after fixing with the patches, going with the updates, whatsoever we have done, that application should have a less counted number of vulnerabilities. Now, if it's giving you two vulnerabilities, for example, it means, and like two vulnerabilities which can be exploited and all that part, it means there's a progress when we do the fixing, right? Then again, I will try to remove these vulnerabilities, right? I will try to fix up these things, and the end product which we get, guys, that is known as a gold build. Okay, there's this term which is goes by the name gold build. It means it is quite protected, like, uh, pretty much safe. Like, why I'm not saying 100% secure, I won't say that word. Reason being, we all know that nothing is 100% secure, correct? So it gold build means it will be up to date, pretty much secure and safe to use. Got it, everyone? Perfect. Uh, just last few things. Penetration testing benefits. We all know that enhancement of the management system, avoid fines, protection from financial damage, customer protection, their details. Like, if somehow PIEs are being leaked out, their details can be protected, protecting company from the financial damage, because if attackers did it, you know, uh, it will be pretty much, a lot of impacts will be there on the organization, not just reputation, financial impact will also be done to your organization, right? So to avoid that, to protect the organization from those fines, because they have to, like, what actually happens is, whenever these attacks happens, no, organization, they have to face reputation impact, they have to face financial impact, and they have to they also have go they also have to go through these laws and all those court and trials, and those happenings are also gonna happen. Because, for example, if I am a customer, for example, of any website, right, and the hack happens, our PII got leaked for these black box, gray box, and white box. Black box testing is, guys, where you have no idea about your target. Where you can say, no idea about your target. Okay, like, you know, uh, pretty much tough to get inside that network. It will be just like a black hat hacker doing things around. Okay, black hat hacker means the one who is having malicious intentions and who is not authorized. Okay, so like black box testing will be like, you don't have any idea about your target, you have to go multiple ways around. Okay, with social engineering attacks you can do that, guessing, SQL injection, whatever you want, you have to go those ways around, right? So, like, for example, if I say infosec train, if I say you guys are an attacker, okay? If I say do the black box testing, it means I will say just do the testing on infosec train. That's it. Apart from the name, I haven't shared any information with you guys. So that will be termed as your black box testing. Gray box will be the partial share of the information, you can say. So if I share the information like, okay, infosec train, you have to do the gray box testing. It means I meant is that, okay, I'll be telling you that, okay, infosec train is running Apache server. It was built in your PHP, uh, right? This might share some username and password with you. Then allowing you to do the pen testing will be known as your gray box, partial share of the information. And when I'm talking about white box testing, I would be saying do the pen testing on infosec train, and here is the source code. So you can do the deep penetration testing of that entire website or application or infosec train. So that will be considered as your white box testing when you have the huge amount of information shared